tell you the story of how I farm 100,000 potatoes in Palworld. Now, Palworld is a game where you capture and tame pals to make them work for you, go on adventure, fight bosses, and collect resources, while at the same time defending your base against giant raid of angry pals and bandits. So I will have to find a way to make my pal work on an astounding amount of potatoes while defending my base. And it all started like any Palworld playthrough, naked on the beach. So I started from the spawn area and went down the mountain, grabbing some basic resources along the way, making sure to try to find a pal sphere to catch a Kadiva. Kadiva are not the best pals, but it's a really solid early game pal that can craft, mine, gather, and transport. Also, having it in your team will increase your carrying capacity by 50, which helps a lot in the early game. I ended up not finding any stray pal sphere, so I grabbed the Lift Monk effigy and quickly reached my first base location. It's a simple area with all the basic resources I need. Then I made a pal box and began crafting the basic tools and structure that I would need. I made 2 pal sphere and captured 2 Kadiva. Then made them work immediately. Then I made an axe, a pickaxe, I upgraded my base to level 2, I captured a lamb ball and a chickpea, and finished building the essentials for the pals. Then I slept the night away by accident. On day 2, I was now level 5, so I unlocked the berry plantation. But I don't want the berry plantation, I want a potato plantation, unfortunately. I will have to wait until level 29 before unlocking the potato plantation. So in the meantime, my goal is to progress into the game as fast as I could to get the best pal for farming when I will be level 29. So I made a few pal sphere and a wrench, and I went and explored the starting area to get more pals to help me. I was looking for 2 things, a fire pal to cook and smelt iron, and a pal to cut wood. Because in Palworld, each pal can do only a certain task, and the higher the level of that task, the faster they can make it. But for a weak little human with a spear, I could only get weak pals with rank 1 in their work. So after getting a tansy and a fosspart, I got a cremis for more wool, and all I needed now was a water pal. Along the way, I unlocked the Rain Syndicate's tower teleporter, and then found the pengulet and caught it for my watering pal. So with that done, what I needed to do to unlock more powerful gear was to get level, and the fastest way to get level in Palworld is to capture a pal. Each time you capture a pal, you get a massive boost in XP until you have captured 12 of a pal. Then you don't get the bonus from that pal anymore. And then I made a glider and an outfit. On day 3, I made a logging site, a mining site, and the Statue of Power. The big problem I had was the crushing lack of Palgium Fragment. And when I unlocked the crusher to turn stone into Palgium Fragment, it needed Palgium Fragment to craft it, because almost everything useful in Palworld needs Palgium Fragment. So I went and mined a bunch manually, then I got a rush ore, which could be my first mount and would speed up my way around the world. Then I found my first egg to hatch and made my way to the small settlement, which is a good place to have an easy access to a merchant. Then I came back and made the crusher, and I noticed that the pal merchant was selling a gobfin which has water too, but it was $3,000, so I gathered stuff to sell, and I tried to get a tombat for mining too, but my pal got the last hit. On the morning of day 4, I found another tombat, but this was surprisingly hard because I aggroed 4 depresso with him. But after a long fight, I eventually got the tombat. Then I went back to buy the gobfin, but he no longer had it. Then I made a 3-shot bow because I really wanted a flying mount, and I needed to shoot a Nightwing, but before that, I made a furnace and started some ingot. Then I went to the area where Nightwing spawned, and I got one. But then I realized that I need to be level 15 to make the saddle. And while I was in the area, I decided to go kill the weakest boss pal in Palworld, Chillet. But I was a bit weaker than I expected. I had no food and my armor broke, so on the verge of death and having used my only green sphere, I was hoping that the blue sphere was enough to capture it. And after a few of them, it did! At the end of day 4, I returned home to make a hot spring, and with the ancient point I unlocked the egg incubator. On day 5, I was still short on every resources and I really needed better pals. I barely had enough to make the egg incubator. It's like I was always short of 1 resources. So to fix the lack of sphere and arrows, I went and captured a Vixie, because on the ranch they can dig sphere and arrows as well as some other stuff. Then on my way to get to another pal, I had to go through Hawk, the bounty boss level 12, and this guy does a lot of damage. I almost died, but with the help of my pals, we did it. I captured some dire hole because the rusher was way too slow, and when I got to the Incineram, he was super bugged out, and I could just hit him until he was low enough to be captured. On day 6, I upgraded my base to level 10, which means I can now make a new base to mine ore. So I went and made a new one on the side of the Yellow Mountain, where a bunch of ore spawn. And keep this base in mind, cause this is going to be one of the most important bases of this challenge. Then I used a knight to find Tombat, and I killed the boss. On day 7, I started the ore base, I made a Nightwing saddle to fly, I also crafted a ton of sphere and arrows, and then I needed some flame organ for the cauldron. So I went on a capture spree, and decided to go defeat Zoe and Grisbold. I had 2 strong Earth Pal, and I was over leveled, so the fight was really easy. So now I can finally make expedition for some resources. The only problem is that I don't have enough pals to start the expedition. On day 8, I came back to the mining base and it got 260 ore during the last day. But smelting all that was taking way too long. So I went for one of the best pal you can get, low level, Wixen. Normally Wixen can be found at the Obsidian Mountain and is really high level, but there's another spot where the Wixen can be found around level 15. And the reason why I need Wixen is because of the Kindling level 2, but I mostly needed Handiwork level 3. So I got there, and I used the bosses to help me weaken the Wixen. Then I tried to kill the boss that is weakened, I succeeded even though they were higher level than me, and then I got 2 Wixen. And when I tried to capture my 3rd Wixen, my armor broke, but got it last minute and nearly burned to death. On day 9, I unlocked the teleporter near the Verdash, because it's one of the pal I will need for farming. And then I desperately needed a faster flying mount, so I got a Vanworm. I made a Mega Glider and the Vanworm saddle, and it was so much faster. And then I finally had enough pal for the expedition. I captured the Pain King boss, I went to the central island to get some wheat seed out of Brisla and Floppy, and I also got some potato seed. On day 10, I made a wheat farm, and to prepare to get kindling tree from a pal, I mostly spent the day making XP and getting leather to make a hot armor to go to the volcano. On day 11, I made my hot armor and went to get a Mozzarina to get milk. I got the loot for my first expedition, and then I sent another one, and started my first cake for breeding. And this is why I need better kindling. It takes so long to bake a cake. Then, before going to the volcano, I started my research on planting. Research is gonna be a big part of this challenge, as it speeds up every task that they can do. It just costs a lot of resources. On the way to the volcano, I got some serpent for a reason that I'll explain later. Arriving at the volcano, I scouted the outside to get some eggs, as some eggs are huge and can have some really good pal inside. And right at the end of the day, I found a huge egg. On day 12, I built a breeding pen at the mining base, and this is why I needed a serpent, because with my Incineram, I can make an Anubis. And Anubis is one of the few pal that has Handiwork 4, so with our easy Incineram and our serpent, we can get a bunch of them. Then I returned to the Mount Obsidian for more eggs, but with a slow Nightwing because my Vanworm, being a fire type, was burning me in the volcano despite the hot armor. Then on day 13, I finally got an Anubis egg, and I hatched a Ragnarok which has Kindling 3. Then I needed better mining pal and some pal fluid, so I had to go in the desert in the north, and I was getting near the level of the potato, but I was far to be ready to have potato farms. On day 14, I arrived at the beach of the Dumud and the Dig Toys, and I immediately caught one, and got a random Mimog. Normally these things are hard to capture. I also took the time to capture some other pals for XP. After the beach episode, I got to level 28, one level away from the potatoes. I got enough do mod and dig toys, so I went back home, and I had a ton of upgrade to do. Like a sphere assembly line, better weapons and armor, generator, better storage system, etc. On day 15, I went and caught the Azuro boss for water tree, then a Bushi for wood cutting tree. And I finally hatched my Anubis. Then I started the upgrade that increased the growth rate of crops, and I wanted a Petalia before level 29, so I went to do the boss fight, and I captured her and got the level 29 at the same time. Then I made my first potato farm, and of course only one won't get me far. But that's a start, we can finally farm potatoes. I also got myself a Ring of Mercy. On day 16, I decided to try to beat the Beacon boss level 29. As a level 29 myself, how bad can it be? Well, I almost died, but with my Anubis giving me earth damage to counter it, I managed to beat it and capture my first beacon, which will become my mount eventually. Then I desperately needed a bee guard to produce honey to bake cake for breeding, so I went and captured a bee guard, and I got a huge verdant egg. It could be a verdash or a violet, hopefully one of these. On day 17, I spent most of the day collecting 4 other bee guard to condense them into one, because when you use the pal condenser to condense pals, those that goes in the wrench produce stuff faster. Then I went to the Southern Sanctuary for a Grisbolt. On day 18, I used this freshly captured Grisbolt to breed it with a Nightwing to make a Yormantide. And Yormantide have Watering 4. I made a second wrench for resources at the mining base, and then I condensed a bunch of wrench pal. On day 19, I mainly focused on capturing pals for XP, I fought a Mamorist, and then I was high enough level to make a beacon saddle for a boss that I captured a few days ago. And now I have finally a fast flying mount. And passively in 2 days, I have harvested 128 potatoes. This was not fast enough. Then I made an advanced furnace for some refined ingot, but I needed coal, quartz, and more stuff, so I really needed a new base. On day 20, before going north to find coal and quartz and unlock the teleporter, I did the Tower of the Free Pal Alliance. Then unlocking the ore mining site, so I will be able to move the mining base somewhere with coal and still mine ore. Then I went north and got some quartz, and then went to the desert to mine coal by hand first. So after getting back home on day 21, I hatched my first Yormantide, but I needed way more coals. So after getting some coal in the desert, I went to catch a Blaze Howl. To breed with Yormantide to get Yormantide Ignis, and this is an easy way to get Kindling 4. On day 22, I got my base to level 15, so now I can make a third base. Then I wanted to make a coal base on top of the mountain instead of moving my other base, but there were a bit more people than I thought. Then I spend the rest of the day moving stuff from one base to another. Day 23, I spend the day prepping what will be the farming base for potatoes, but I only had enough seed to craft 2 more plantation. On day 24, I found out that you can make a Liline with Petalia and Masanda, and Liline is one of the only pal that has planting 4. So I went to capture Petalia, but she was on fire, so even with the Ring of Mercy, she died anyway. and I couldn't capture her. This was bad because now I had to wait another 1 hour before she respawned. So instead, I went on a floppy killing spree. And with the potato seed from the floppy and verdash, I made 4 new plantation. On the dawn of day 25, I now have 8 potato plantation. So I decided to do a boss kill run for parts and XP, and I got to capture the verdash I needed. Then I hatched my first Yarmentide Ignis before the dawn. On day 26, I finally caught a Petalia to make a Liline. And suddenly, the pal at the mining base were starving and got sick, so I had to take the whole day to organize some shit. On day 27, I spent the day collecting potato seed and gumas leaves for upgrades. Thankfully, I had my trusty Blaze Owl that doubles the drops of the grass pal, and I almost got wrecked by the verdash. On day 28, I was struggling with food since all of my good food pile were occupied on potatoes, but I had a couple of Liline coming. Then I tried to get more Gumas leaves, but they don't drop often even with Blaze Owl. I needed an astounding amount of them for upgrades, and if I wanted the challenge to not take 100 years, I had to do a bunch of upgrades to produce stuff faster. On day 29, I got to level 40, and it took 29 days for my first raid. Remember when I said at the start that I had to survive against raid? Yeah, it took a while. I thought they were disabled somehow, but no, they were on. And then I finally unlocked a guild chest, which will help moving things around the bases. And then at the end of the day, I made a refined metal heat armor. On day 30, I finally hatched my Liline. With planting 4 and having unlocked the flower bed that boosts gather speed, I was now at 15 potato plantation, and I finally reached 2,000 potatoes. I also started breeding a Foxpark and an Incineram for a Verdash. How does 2 fire type make a grass type? It makes no sense, but anyway. On day 31, the Terraria update dropped mid-challenge. I was hoping that it didn't mess with the challenge, and it seems like it did not change what we were doing. And now that we had some good pals, I wanted them with better traits, so I started with Suzaku, because my artisan did awesome with a Suzaku give a Masanda, and a Masanda with a Petalia give a Liline. And I found out there's a new Syndicate base right next to mine. I got attacked by the biggest raid I've ever seen. They must have changed something. But this raid was huge. I almost lost every pal there. Also, for some reason, my pals were not gaining XP at the base. All the pals were low level, so I decided to add some defense to the base. On day 32, I wanted to get a better Yarmentide with Artisan, and since I had a beacon with Artisan, all I needed was a male sweeper. So I got a few of them, and then I hatched a few Liline. On day 33, I found a guy that gave me a mission, but I ain't got time for that. I gathered more potato seeds, I built a silo to increase the gather speed of pals, I made more breeding, and reached 3,000 potato. And I finally hatched a Verdash with Artisan. Day 34 was pretty uneventful. I gathered a lot of normal pals and did some base work. And day 35 was the exact opposite. I got a Foxpark with Nocturnal to put with Artisan, to then breed with Incineram to get a better Verdash that works at night, because Nocturnal makes pal works at night. Then I got attacked by another raid, and the pals at my base are just too weak for that. And then I discovered a new building called a surgical table to give pals passive and change their gender. And then I realized that it only cost money to give them Nocturnal. I didn't need to do breeding. It cost a fortune, but I made a super Verdash that I can now breed with another Verdash to get more of them. Then I got level 42 right before daytime, so now I can make a production line 2, which let me upgrade and get closer to the 4th base. On day 36, I got a Liline Artisan, so I sold my valuable to upgrade her with Nocturnal and Sirius, and made her breed with another Liline. The research were doing good, but not fast enough, and the result was not that impressive. So I decided that the best way to accelerate that was maybe to speedrun to the 4th base and get another farming base. And with a level up, I can finally make a pump action shotgun. This is my favorite weapon. On day 37, we finally got to 5,000 potatoes, only 95,000 more to go. So I did a lot of XP grind again, and the shotgun is really fun. On day 38, I unlocked the legendary sphere and the electric furnace to make Pal metal. And we got another raid, so I decided to bring a bunch of Pal in adventure to level them up, but I got caught in a boss fight with broken weapons and under-leveled Pals. I almost ran out of time, but by swapping the Pals to keep them alive, we pulled through. On day 39, I made a Pal metal pickaxe, and turns out you can buy artisan with some bounty token. I discovered that quests can get you workbook that can increase their work speed by 1 level. Then I use a Leline and a Suzaku to make an Astagon. An Astagon have mining 4. Then on day 40, I decided to fight the tower on the volcano. It went pretty well, even though I almost died. And then I went and did a boss run for more ancient parts. On day 41, I did a few more bosses, I completed some simple quests, and I got a bunch of new manuals to upgrade my pals. And then I learned that Prunelia can boost crop speed, so I bred a few. Then on day 42, I did a lot of pal management for expedition, and I got my first Astagon. And then I immediately gave him the manual to upgrade his mining to 5. Then I went to do some boss to level up some pal for expedition, and I found the new Shipwreck Island. Then I captured some pal over there, and got my Prunelia's egg. On day 43, I was now at 11,500 potatoes, a massive jump in potatoes. I upgraded the planting of my Super Leline to 5, and then I began breeding for Norzerk with a Grisbolt and a Relaxorus. On day 44, I hatched my Prunelia and added it to the potato base. Then the new caravan merchant was passing by and was selling potato seed, so I bought 85 of them. I upgraded my armor to Pal Metal, crafted a beta wave generator to boost the Pal efficiency in the potato base. Now, everything was setting into place to be really productive. On day 45, I was lacking Pal oil, so I captured a bunch of Dumud, then I compressed the Pal so much he went from Dumud to Dupact Mud. And since the potato base was working so well, I made 4 more farm. I got to level 47 right before killing the Elzabi boss. On day 46, I made a weapon assembly line and upgraded the base. And since I was not getting my 4th base now, I decided to add 4 potato farm to the mining base. I was rich in ore anyway. Then I bought a multi-climate undershirt, upgraded my equipment slot to 3, and then I realized I can now talk to Zoe. And she gave me quests. First she wanted a Grisbolt, so I took mine that was in the breeding pen. Then she wanted me to kill some Pal Alliance, so I did in one of their new bays. And these bays are way higher level than the region that they are at, but the new chests inside have some really great loot. Then I brought her a random blanket that she lost, and then she was there in my Pal box with her Grisbolt. And right after that, I immediately hatched my first Orzerk with Electricity 4. So I just replaced her with him. Then I spent the whole day 47 trying to cheese the capture of the Frostalion legendary, and the way you do that is by arriving behind a Pal, you have a back bonus to capture them. So with a legendary sphere, I have only a 2% chance for the first tick to capture the Frostalion, not counting the second tick. Then you immediately run away far enough so that the Frostalion despawn and forget about you. But I ultimately failed to capture it this day. On day 48, I catch more pals for levels, and then I attack the lower level oil rig. But like the idiot that I am, I completely forgot to restock on ammo. So the oil rig was way more difficult than it was supposed to be. On day 49, I tried to capture the Frostalion again, and again, it seemed I couldn't capture it. But it was getting night again, I was running out of sphere, and right as I said to myself, this is the last try, I got it. On day 50, by making my Frostallion and a Hellzephyr breed, I can get a Frostallion knocked, the only pal with harvesting 4. And then I went and checked my potato, I was now at 25,000. I spent the day 51 capturing celery and kelpsie. Then on day 52, I already reached 30,000 potatoes, that's 5,000 potatoes per 2 days. And then I decided to make the mining base half potato, since I won't get a fort base in a while. On day 53, I breeded 2 of my best Liline for even more Liline. Then I made all the pals put the potatoes in the guild chest, since potatoes don't decay in there. Because since the beginning, I have to keep my potatoes from decaying in the fridge using a frost pal. So by having them in the guild chest, it gives me 1 more pal to work at the base. Then I decided to try the new fishing mechanic. On day 54, I hatched my Frostallion knocked, and then I made a coin assembly line for money. Then I replaced some Verdash with the Frostallion knocked, and made some of them with Harvest 5. And oh my god, the harvest was so much faster on these guys. And I watched the potatoes go over 40,000. On day 55, I wanted to buy the artisan chip, but I needed way more bounty token, so I went and fight some of the bounty boss. I got a weird glitch where the big boy with the minigun duplicated, so I got more token with that. And then, on a flight towards 1, I thought there was enough water down. There was not. On day 56, I bought the artisan chip and then upgraded the pal with it. And right after that, I reached 50,000 potatoes. The end was coming faster than I thought. I was just standing there watching the number go up. Then I boosted the pal at the mining base and went to get beautiful flowers to boost the production there. On day 57, I built a better wave generator at the mining base, got to 60k potatoes, I wanted a better flying mount, so during the night I did the same thing that I did for the Frostallion, but this time with a jet dragon. And unfortunately, it failed. On day 58, I had to take care of my pal all day, then I watched the count go beyond 70,000 potatoes, and I tried the jet dragon again, and failed. On day 59, I started to make food that boosts the work speed, so I caught a ton of chickpea, and then I got to 80,000 potatoes. I was getting 10,000 per day now, and I tried for the jet dragon again, but failed again. Day 60 was pretty much the same as the previous day. I watched my potato cross the 90,000 mark, so that means there is only 1 day left. So on the final day, day 61, I gave my pal a ton of pizza that gives an insane amount of sanity. And I increased the working condition for the last day. But my base was not ready for this. I didn't have the best spa, I didn't have the alpha wave generator, so even though they were working faster, and I got to 100,000 potatoes before the end of the day, the pals were struggling a bit. But we did it. We reached 100,000 potatoes in only 61 days. This was pretty satisfying. It was a bit easier than the one we did on 7 Days to Die, but that was to be expected since the pal do most of the work. All I had to do is to manage the pals and make sure that I had the best stats possible to do it the quickest as possible. So I hope you enjoyed, make sure you subscribe for more of these challenges, let me know in the comments if you want me to try some games. I already have some other ideas, so once again thank you for watching, and on to the next one.